I've been talking about getting myself a new camera for absolutely ages. I can't remember exactly how long, but it's got to be at least close to a year at this point. And then over Black Friday last year, I finally went and ordered it. I waited for Black Friday because it was going to be an expensive purchase, and I wanted to see what sort of discount I could get. Luckily, it came down from $800 to $500, which is still a pretty big purchase. I think it's the most expensive individual purchase I've made for this channel. Obviously, the computer is more expensive, but I bought that for other reasons as well. So the camera is the most expensive purchase just for the channel. Now, if you're curious what the camera actually is, it's a Canon EOS M200. Now, at this point, there are so many entry-level mirrorless cameras that it's kind of difficult to work out which one you actually want to go with. And I sort of agree with Harris Heller's take on what is important for doing like vlogging and streaming content. So one of those things I can actually show you because I have two cameras attached is having this flip up camera here. Now, in the case of, doing videos like this, I don't really need it because I have my OBS output over here. But if I'm doing something outside where I, want to see that I actually have the camera properly pointing at my face, that is something that's pretty important to have. Now, if instead of having a flip up screen, it had a flip out screen to like the left or the right hand side, that would still be perfectly fine because just having some sort of screen you can see while you're recording yourself is all you actually need to make sure you're actually pointing the camera in the right spot. Now, the lens that I'm running is just a pretty basic 15 to 45mm zoom lens. There's nothing special there, it's the one that came in the box. But the special thing about the lens isn't the lens itself, it's the lens mount, because in the case of this camera, it uses the EFM mount, which means that I can go and buy like any other Canon lens and go and stick it on this camera. I'm not just stuck with this lens. So this is the lens I have right here, but I could go and grab, say, this one right here or this one here, and I can get some completely different shots that just wouldn't be possible if the lens was actually built into the camera like you typically see on a lot of these cheaper cameras. But being a zoom lens, I can go and do things like this, for example, which I probably won't do if I'm just like doing regular videos like this. But I think there could be some fun to be had there if I'm in a stream and I'm also messing around with my new mixer board and running like voice effects. I have some ideas. I'm not going to give anything away just yet, but I think we're going to be able to make some pretty fun streams with it. Now, typically I'm going to have this camera mounted in one spot and it's not going to move, but let's say I wanted to go and do a vlog outside. One of the advantages that this thing has is it doesn't have any jingly things on it, which you might think sounds kind of weird for a camera, but there are so many camera manufacturers like Sony who are like, let's just put jingly things on the camera that has a microphone attached to it, which produces audio that sounds way worse than it needs to sound. This doesn't have that problem. If you want to go and mount a strap to it, basically it has this little metal bar here. You attach something to the metal bar, and that's all you need to do. But the absolute most important thing for me was having clean HDMI out. So clean HDMI is basically when you can take the output from the camera, feed that from HDMI into something like OBS, and then record it without seeing the on-screen controls. So I'll show you what it looks like when it's not in clean HDMI mode. As you can probably tell, this is not conducive to making a good video, so what I would have to go and do is go and record the video on the camera. Also, when it's like this and you're not recording, it will sometimes just go and turn the camera off because it's going to go into a power saving mode. So record the video separately, record the audio separately, and then sync them in post, or I guess get this microphone working on the camera and then recording everything on the camera. But with my setup, I don't need to record anything on the camera unless I'm doing a vlog outside. So right now, as you can probably tell from the big text on screen, I don't even have a card inside of this camera. I do have an SD card that I can go and use if I need it, but because I haven't had to do a vlog outside yet, I haven't actually needed to go and use it. Now, to get the HDMI feed from the camera into the computer, there are some weird hacks you can go and do with FFmpeg, but that's too much work. What I'd rather do instead is just go and spend like $10 and get myself one of these, an HDMI camera stick. 100% officially licensed HDMI camera stick. This is not just misusing the HDMI branding because it's good for clicks or anything like that. Basically, you can pick these things up on like eBay, Amazon, AliExpress, Wish, basically any place that sells sketchy Chinese stuff for like anywhere from $5 to like $20. Look for the cheaper ones. They're all the exact same thing. And what you do is one side it has a USB port, and you plug the USB port into your computer, you plug the HDMI side right here into or I guess you plug the cable into that one, and then it just thinks it's a webcam, and you just go from there. You could also go and buy like an Elgato Cam Link if you really wanted to. Apparently, the Cam Link looks a little bit better than this thing, but for like $10, I don't really care, because Cam Links still are being massively price gouged. I think in Australia you can buy them for like $200. I'm not paying that. That's dumb. I'm just going to get a bunch of these things, and they'll do the job basically as well. One thing about this HDMI capture stick is it is limited to 1080p. This camera does support 4K output, and I would like to try it, but if you try to run 4K with one of these things, the output's just going to keep cutting in and out. There is a 4K version of this. I haven't tried it. I would like to try it and see if it works as well. I mentioned that I bought this on Black Friday. The reason why I didn't start using this camera 2 months ago is because I was waiting for a couple of things to arrive. One of those, obviously, was the capture sticks here. They didn't take that long to show up because there was like a seller in Melbourne. The other thing that I was waiting for was the dummy battery. So a dummy battery, basically, it's a dummy battery. It goes into the camera, you plug power into it from your wall, and then you have a camera that's always powered. I guess I could have used batteries, but batteries are fairly expensive, especially getting the official batteries, and the batteries that aren't the official batteries are just poorly made and have really terrible capacity. And the other thing I needed was some way to actually mount the camera. So I like to have things on arms because I don't have much desk space, and arms don't really take up that much space. And I couldn't find anything like just aftermarket that would basically fit what I needed without spending obscene amounts of money, because the distance it needs to go, you can't find any like camera arms or microphone arms that would do it without going into like the $300 or $400 range. And if you look at, say, like monitor stands, because of how far it is, you would have to pay for things that would go in like hospitals that would like sit over someone's bed. And once again, those are a couple $100. So what I did is I went to my stepdad. I was like, hey, make me a thing. And this is what he came back with. We have this metal bar here, and it's attached to another metal bar. This metal bar here, you can basically lift up and down. This one right here is just attached to the desk, and you can like slide it back and forth along the desk. And then this bar in here basically just runs behind my entire monitor, and I can just mount that on there with just a standard sort of camera mount. And honestly, this is just such a better solution than any of the solutions I'd found out there anyway. Plus, it was basically free to make because he already had most of the parts and already had the tools anyway. It was just like a neat project for him to do over Christmas. Now, regardless of what camera you're using, whether you're buying something nicer like a Canon EOS, one of like the more expensive ones, or even just the one that I have, or even just running like a C920 webcam, never run a camera on automatic settings. Right now, I've basically got everything manually dialed in. The only thing that isn't manual is my focus, because I want to be able to do things like this, because... oh, I'm not cutting that. I want to be able to do things like this because, you know, cool YouTubers can do things like that, and I haven't really been able to do that up until this point. Now, running this camera in auto isn't really that bad. I could probably get it to work, and doing things like, say, zooming in obviously is going to look nicer now because it's not going to be, you know, really dark by lowering the number of f-stops, but it also does have the problem where if I have the color changing lights, it completely freaks out by having the background constantly changing, and it makes me really, really orange. So even though it is kind of nice, I can't really use it like this. However, to be fair, it does do way better than the webcam under the exact same lighting conditions, so it looks something like this. I am so overexposed with this webcam. If we try to put something in front of it, is it going to autofocus on it? One day, it might, maybe. I know it does have autofocus. I lost it. That's why I haven't been able to do that with the webcam up until this point. So instead of doing it like this, I'll show you what they look like side by side under best case conditions. At this point, it's not even a question of which camera looks better, because the EOS at retail is $700 more, so obviously it should look better. I just wanted you guys to see if it was actually worth the purchase I made. Personally, I think that it is, even if it's just for like being able to do things like zooming and actually being able to have autofocus that actually works. Just that alone is going to be really useful for doing things like streams, but just having generally better looking videos overall is going to be a massive, massive upgrade. But most of the time, the difference isn't going to be this noticeable because most of the time it's going to be in this little window down here. In a size like this, the C920 is perfectly fine. So if you're just starting out a channel, it's not like you need to go and buy an expensive camera. But if you do really want to like take it seriously and want to make your content look better, it might be worth looking into. Thank you guys for watching. Before I go, I would like to thank my supporters. So a special thank you to Chris, Joachim, Donald, Michael, Andre, Nathan, David Monster, Will, Brennan, Chico, Bento, Jamie, Joseph, Mitchell, Pittity, Tony Tushar, and all my $2 supporters. If you'd like to go support my work, there's links down below to my Patreon, Subscribestar, LibrePay, all of that sort of stuff. I've got my podcast, Tech Over Tea, available basically anywhere, and then this channel is available on Odyssey, Library, and BitChute if you want to watch on a platform that isn't YouTube. So I think that's going to be pretty much everything for me, and I'm out.